To repair a VHS cassette, you need some basic tools. It's nice to have an X-Acto knife and a small Phillips screwdriver, a pair of forceps. I like a little lubricant with a little pad to lubricate the inside of the cassette. Also, if you're going to have to repair the tape itself, you'll need some Scotch tape and a pair of scissors to make a nice mitered cut. Nice to have. First of all, the first thing you need to do if you're going to look inside of a videotape cassette is to incise this label here, so that this basically keeps people from getting into the tape. And in this case, I'm just using a razor blade to do that, and that allows that to open up. Now, then you have to turn the cassette over, and on the back side, you're going to find 5 screws. And all the videotapes seem to be like this. And you loosen the screws until they start to spin, like that. And then you can just turn the tape over and let the 5 screws drop out, and put those aside for later use. Now, you don't want to open up the videotape. This is what you don't want to do. You don't want to take this apart from the back, because what happens is the whole thing falls apart and it winds up looking like this, and it's hard to know what to do. The reels pop up, the pieces fall apart, and you wind up with, in this case, you wind up with about 6 moving parts, and the tape in disarray. Over to the back side. Now, with these tapes, what we find is that there's a little release thing right here, and that will allow you to open up the head cover like that. So there, the head cover has been opened up. That little button is right there, and then the tape can just be, the top of the tape can just be moved off like this. Now, there's no moving parts on the back of the tape, just these 2 springs to keep the tape, a little tension on the tape. So here's what we see in the tape itself. And all of these tapes have reels with ratchets on them, and then the tapes run up through these rollers. And this, usually you can just take the tape right out like this. You want to just put it aside so that it doesn't get wrinkled up. And here we have the guts of the tape. Each one of these rollers here is removable. And these guys down here, this is where people get into trouble with these little ratchet devices that are spring-loaded. If you take the tape off, if you take the cassette apart the wrong way, then all of this stuff pops out. And this is what these pieces look like. But the thing that's nice about them is all of the moving parts are the same in all of them. So if you happen to go in the wrong direction, what you will find is you'll have this many parts. Usually the thing that's most intimidating are the springs that hold the little clickers. If your videotape came apart when you disassembled the case, don't despair. It's pretty easy to put it back together. There's only 6 moving parts. There's a little roller on each corner, and it's got a notch in it, and that notch just goes into the frame of the cassette. There's one of those on either side, and they just slip over this post, and they just lock in place. There's another roller here that also just slips on there. The tape goes through there and around here and by that little tape. Next, there's a little tab here. You can push this tab down from the back side to release the rollers, or the tape, it's held locked in place by these little clickers here, and the clickers just fit over these posts, and you have to make, there's the oops, that rotated too far. There's the tab of the clicker that goes into the ratchet on the spool, and then you have to make sure that it's not on the other side of this release lever. Again, and you do the same thing on the other side, remembering that this is the tab, and this just goes over the post, and then this back tab goes right there. And then finally, in this case, we have a piece of memory metal that looks like this, and the straight part just slides up against the case like this, and then those little tabs press on these two ratcheted devices here, so that when you can release them like this. Okay, so now that's pretty much the way that works. So the parts of the case have been reassembled. Now let's look at the tape. In this case, the back of the tape, which rolls up against the back of the case, again, I've got a little bit of oil on this. And I'll put a little bit of oil on the back here of these and rub them off and clean them a little bit, because that's where the action occurs. And those actually look quite clean. And then we just keep a little tension on that and roll them over. There's not much that happens on the front side, so we're ready to assemble this. And how we do that is just put the reels back in here like that. That one clicked in automatically. Then we take the tape and run it around this set of rollers, bring it over here. We'll take a little of the tension off and set this one down, and this tape goes underneath that little tab right there and around that roller, and there we are. And then we can just release the clicker and tighten up the tape, and the tape is ready now to reassemble. So we're all set. It's been cleaned up and oiled. All the pieces that came apart have been put back in place, and now we're ready to put the top back on. And again, we just make sure that we pull this back like this and engage the cassette like so, and it's all ready to go. And then we just turn it back over, and then we put in the 5 screws. This one has a spring. This is very common. Notice the spring is here, and here goes underneath that little foot right there, and it works like this. So that's another type of mechanism. This has separate. Whoa, that one went shooting. So we'll get a chance to put that back in for you. But that basically goes around this. Basically goes around there like that and holds that in place. So that's how that one works. This one is more simple, and if it comes apart, then you just have to slip it back in place. But again, the other standard features are the same. And this one, you just release this like this and tighten it down, then you go ahead and reassemble it. This is a Maxell, and notice this type of device has springs here on this post that are holding the clickers in place. And but if these come off, you can just reinsert them like this. And again, it works the same way, releasing like this. Now this tape is a Maxell tape, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but it has structure, radial structure like this. This creates less friction because there's not as much pressure on the back of the reel. Again, you just clean these off, but this more expensive type of case works much better. And if you find that if you find that you're having trouble getting your desired tape to work well, switch it to a device with that you know works. That's maybe high quality, or at least works in your machine. If you find that your tape has been damaged or torn, basically what you do is freshen up the ends with a nice sharp pair of scissors so that you can then superimpose the two pieces of the tape over one another. Make sure you have the shiny edge up, and when they're superimposed properly, then make an oblique cut like this. And then you want to put the tape on the non-shiny side, because the tape is red off of the opposite side. And I find that I can just take a piece of Scotch tape and put it on one side on a piece of paper like this, vertically across it, and then just slide the other piece of tape. Sometimes you need a little extra room here, so we'll do that. And we'll just slide this other tape right underneath it until we get the two ends matched up perfectly. Sometimes that takes a little bit of messing around, but there we've got it. And then it's been sealed down, and then you take a razor blade or a similar sharp device and just cut right along the edge of the tape, like so, on either side. And then the tape is nicely spliced. Then you can just take up the slack and you're ready to put your top back on and go ahead and watch your videotape.